The man who lived in the mirrors. The apartment had been empty for 6 months before Marcus moved in. The landlord called it a deal. Below market rent, utilities included, quiet building. What he didn't mention was the mirrors. There were 9 of them, full length, floor to ceiling, mounted to every major wall in every room. The bathroom had 3. The bedroom had 2. The living room had 4, arranged so that standing in the center meant you saw yourself reflected endlessly. An infinite corridor of Marcus stretching back into a darkness he couldn't locate. He should have taken them down on the first day. He knew that. But something about the way they caught the morning light, the way his reflection seemed to breathe with him, to lean slightly forward as if curious, made him hesitate. He told himself it was the light. He told himself it was beautiful. The first thing he noticed was the lag. It was subtle, a fraction of a second. When he raised his right hand, the man in the mirror raised his, but just a hair too late. Marcus stood in the living room for 20 minutes that first Tuesday, lifting and dropping his arms, tilting his head, sticking out his tongue. Each time, the delay was there. Barely perceptible, enough to notice, not enough to be certain. He mentioned it to his co-worker, Dana, during lunch. She laughed and said he needed to sleep more. He agreed and changed the subject. But that night he stood in front of the bathroom mirror with a stopwatch, and he counted 1,000 before his reflection blinked. His reflection, not him. His reflection had blinked when Marcus had not. He covered the mirrors with bedsheets, all 9. He slept better for 3 days. Then he started hearing it, a soft, rhythmic sound from behind the sheet in the bedroom. Not knocking, more like breathing. The slow, deliberate respiration of something at rest, watching, waiting for him to lift the cloth. On the 4th night, he pulled the sheet away. The man in the mirror was sitting down. Marcus was standing. He had been standing for minutes, the sheet bunched in his hands, his heart slamming against the inside of his chest. But his reflection was seated, elbows on knees, chin resting in cupped palms, looking up at Marcus with an expression Marcus had never worn. Not fear, not surprise. Something older than both. Something patient. Patient like a man who has been waiting for a very long time. He left the apartment, drove to a motel 3 towns over and checked in under a false name, which made no sense and which he did anyway. Lay on top of the polyester bedspread and stared at the ceiling until 4 a.m. At 4 a.m., he went to the bathroom to splash water on his face. The motel bathroom had a mirror. In it, his reflection was sitting down. You can't leave a man who lives inside your skin. He called his sister, Renata, from the parking lot at dawn. She drove 4 hours to get him. She took him back to her house in the suburbs, put him in the guest room, made chamomile tea. The guest room had no mirrors. She'd confirmed this 3 times on the phone at his request. That night he lay in the dark and thought about what the reflection had been waiting for. He thought about the lag, 1 second, now maybe 2, and what it meant for something to be that far behind you, accumulating everything you'd ever done, studying every gesture and expression, growing more fluent in the language of your face. At 3 a.m., he woke to the sound of breathing in the corner of the room. He turned on the bedside lamp. There was no mirror. There was no one. But on the bare white wall, at the precise height where a mirror might hang, there was a rectangular outline, faint, like a shadow with no source. And inside it, just barely visible in the lamplight, the shape of a man seated on a chair, leaning forward, watching. The glass is only the door. The man has been learning to walk without it. Renata found him gone the next morning. His car was still in the driveway. His phone was on the kitchen table, screen up, battery dead. The front door was locked from the inside. She called the police. They searched the house, the yard, the neighbors' properties. They found nothing. The detective assigned to the case noted in his report that the guest bedroom wall showed a faint, rectangular discoloration. Paint slightly different, as if something had hung there long enough to shield the surface from light, though Renata insisted she had never owned a mirror in that room. The detective stood in the doorway for a long time, looking at the outline on the wall. He had the peculiar sense that it was looking back, that something behind it was breathing with slow, deliberate patience. He drove home that evening and walked past his hallway mirror without glancing at it. He always walked past mirrors without looking now. He had learned that the hard way. Some reflections know your face better than you ever will. If you're watching in the dark, good. Stay where I can see you. Subscribe for more stories, and whatever you do tonight, don't look too long.